If I were to do an impersonation of one of our presidents, you'd probably know who I was talking about just by the characteristics and the gestures and the sound of their voice. For instance, we're gonna build a wall, folks. It's gonna be huge, big, beautiful wall. No other country, not even China, will have a wall like us. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to jump in the pool and rub my leg down and watch the hair stand back up again. But what if I asked you about presidents that maybe didn't have a social media account, never appeared on Late Night with Jimmy Kimmel, never had an interview or a televised speech? What if I were to ask you about our first presidents? Well, today that's what we're going to be going over, all 46 presidents, from the very start to the current date. We're going to go over how many terms they served, what parties they were with, how many years they were in office, and anything significant that might have happened during their presidency. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then stay tuned, here on History Abridged. Our first president was George Washington, who served from 1789 to 1797, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. George Washington was part of no party, and strongly opposed the idea of parties forming within the United States. Our second president was John Adams, who served from 1797 to 1801, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Adams was part of the Federalist Party. Our third president was Thomas Jefferson, who served from 1801 to 1809, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Thomas Jefferson was part of the Democratic-Republican Party. Our fourth president was James Madison, who served from 1809 to 1817, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Madison also was a Democratic-Republican. Our fifth president was James Monroe. Monroe served from 1817 to 1825, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Monroe, like his predecessors, was also a Democratic-Republican. Our sixth president was John Quincy Adams, who served from 1825 to 1829, only 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. John Adams was also a Democratic-Republican. Our seventh president was Andrew Jackson, who served from 1829 to 1837, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Andrew Jackson was the first Democrat. Our eighth president was Martin Van Buren, who served from 1837 to 1841, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Van Buren, like his predecessor, was also a Democrat. Our ninth president was William Harrison. Harrison, however, died of fever only 31 days into his first term, serving from 1841 to 1841. Harrison was a member of the Whig Party. Our 10th president was John Tyler, who served as vice president to Harrison. He took over in 1841 and served until 1845, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Tyler, like Harrison, was a member of the Whig Party. Our 11th president was James K. Polk. Polk served from 1845 to 1849, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Polk was also a Democrat. Our 12th president was Zachary Taylor, who served from March 4th, 1849 to July 9th, 1850. Taylor died of an unknown digestive ailment common among his associates. Taylor was also a member of the Whig Party. Our 13th president was Millard Fillmore, who served as the vice president to Taylor. He served from 1850 to 1853, 3 years, not even equivalent to a full term. Fillmore was also a Whig. Our 14th president was Franklin Pierce, who served from 1853 to 1857, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Pierce was also a Democrat. Our 15th president was James Buchanan, who served from 1857 to 1861, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Buchanan was also a Democrat. Our 16th president was Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln served from 1861 to 1865, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Notably, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865. Lincoln was the first of his party, the modern Republican Party. Our 17th president was Andrew Johnson, who served from 1865 to 1869, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Andrew Johnson, who served as Lincoln's vice president, officially was part of the National Union Party, and later, when he took the office, announced that he was part of the Democrat Party. Our 18th president was Ulysses S. Grant, who served from 1869 to 1877, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Grant was also a Republican. Our 19th president was Rutherford B. Hayes, who served from 1877 to 1881, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Hayes was also a member of the new Republican Party. Our 20th president was James A. Garfield. Garfield was assassinated less than 7 months into his first term by an assailant named Charles J. Guiteau. Guiteau is now believed to be what would be equivalent to a schizophrenic psychopath, though some psychologists kind of argue between schizophrenic and narcissistic. Apples to oranges, I guess. Guiteau had been rejected offices in Garfield's administration that he badly wanted. Guiteau believed himself to be the next presidential candidate and was trying to set himself up for an election in the future. Guiteau was also part of a fringe Republican wing that was pretty much radicalized. We're talking far, far right. It's important to remember that in this time period, presidents had no Secret Service. In fact, they had no security whatsoever. Even after John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Lincoln, this was seen as a once-in-a-lifetime thing, not something that would commonly happen. So no further actions were taken to protect future presidents. After being rejected offices within Garfield's administration, Guiteau claimed that he needed to make history and cleanse the party. Guiteau was completely uninterrupted in his plan to kill Garfield and succeeded in doing so. Garfield served less than 1 term from 1881 to 1881. Our 21st president was Chester A. Arthur, who served from 1881 to 1885, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. What's interesting is that Arthur, who was the vice president to President Garfield, was a member of the same fringe party that Guiteau was a part of. Upon shooting Garfield, Charles J. Guiteau stated loudly so that everyone heard him, "Arthur will be president." He believed that President Arthur would give him a pardon and grant him the office that Garfield refused to do so. President Arthur, however, didn't share the same opinion. He did not pardon Guiteau and instead had him tried and executed for the assassination of his predecessor. Our 22nd president was Grover Cleveland, who served from 1885 to 1889, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. He was a Democrat. Our 23rd president was Benjamin Harrison, who served from 1889 to 1893, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Harrison was a member of the Republican Party. In a fascinating and never again replicated turn of events, Grover Cleveland is our 24th president, as well as our 22nd president. Cleveland served from 1893 to 1897, equivalent to 1 term. Grover Cleveland is the only president in U.S. history to serve 2 non-consecutive terms in office. Our 25th president was William McKinley. William McKinley was assassinated by Leon Czolgosz during a meet and greet, September 6th. On the 13th, President McKinley passed away. McKinley served from 1897 to 1901, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. McKinley was part of the Republican Party. Our 26th president was Theodore Roosevelt, who served from 1901 to 1909, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Roosevelt was a Republican, as well as being the vice president to McKinley and a national war hero. Our 27th president was William Howard Taft, who served from 1909 to 1913, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Taft became the 10th Chief Justice of the United States, the only person to hold both offices of President and Supreme Court Justice. William Howard Taft was a member of the Republican Party. Our 28th president was Woodrow Wilson, who served from 1913 to 1921, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Wilson was a member of the Democrat Party. Our 29th president was Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding suffered from intense abdominal pain, and at the time his doctors diagnosed him with medicine that they thought would fix the abdominal pain. It's now understood that Harding actually suffered from very, very bad cardiac arrest. Harding had had a heart attack which was so bad that put him in bed, but it didn't kill him. Though it seemed Harding was improving, he had one final heart attack that did kill him. Harding served within 1 term from 1921 to 1923. Our 30th president was Calvin Coolidge, who served from 1923 to 1929, equivalent to 1 term. Coolidge finished out Harding's term as he was Harding's vice president, and then was elected to serve another term. Calvin Coolidge was a member of the Republican Party. Our 31st president was Herbert Hoover, who served from 1929 to 1933, a total of 4 years equivalent to one term. Hoover was also a Republican. Our 32nd president was Franklin D. Roosevelt, also known as FDR. FDR was first elected in 1933, near the start of the Great Depression. He became the only U.S. president to be elected 4 terms in a row, the only president to have a total of 3 vice presidents. He was also the only president who was paralyzed from the waist down. FDR hadn't always been bound to a wheelchair, but after an illness, he ended up getting polio, which paralyzed him from his hips down, and he was never able to walk again. During Roosevelt's 3rd and 4th terms, he spent most of his time consumed with World War II, a war which was sweeping the entire globe. Upon FDR's death in office, the 45th Vice President Truman, took command. Roosevelt served from 1933 to 1945. Roosevelt was also part of the Democrat Party. Our 33rd president was Harry S. Truman, who served from 1945 to 1953, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Truman was responsible for the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which to this day is debated as an unnecessary act of violence against an already defeated Japan. Harry S. Truman was also part of the Democrat Party. Our 34th president was Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower had a shining record as a supreme commander of all Allied forces during World War II, and was by and large beloved. He would later become one of JFK's close friends and advisors. Eisenhower served from 1953 to 1961, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Our 35th president was John F. Kennedy, also known as JFK. JFK was the youngest man to ever be elected to the presidency. At only 43 years old, JFK had all the charm and charisma in the world. His progressive views on civil rights and religion caused a great deal of unrest among his fellow Democrats, and the fact that only 0.2% separated JFK and Nixon in the election left Republicans salty. JFK soon won over both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats, as his policies, patriotism, and youthful vigor made leaps and bounds for the American society. JFK was a president responsible for the moon landing, working closely with Martin Luther King on civil rights and economic growth. It's popularly rumored that JFK had several extramarital relationships with at least 9 women, including Marilyn Monroe and his wife's press secretary, Pamela Turner. On November 22, 1963, just 1,036 days into his presidency, JFK was shot through the back of the head and dead instantly. To this day, JFK's assassination is veiled in secrecy. Lee Harvey Oswald was the man arrested and condemned as his assassin, but denied the crimes, claiming he was a patsy. Oswald was shot and killed on the 24th by a man named Jack Ruby. Ruby was arrested and died of cancer in 1967 in prison. The vice president, LBJ, an opponent of JFK in the 1960 primaries, took office. JFK served from 1961 to 1963, equivalent of 1 term. John F. Kennedy was a member of the Democrat Party. Our 36th president was Lyndon B. Johnson, who served from 1963 to 1969, a total of 6 years and 1 term. LBJ was among the most controversial presidents in U.S. history, being blamed for a prolonged Vietnam War, spying via wiretap on Martin Luther King Jr., though JFK's administration had authorized this action years before, and even accused of setting up Kennedy's assassination. LBJ withdrew from the office while running for re-election against 4 Democrats, including Robert Kennedy. Nixon, however, won in 1968. Our 37th president was Richard Nixon, who served from 1969 to 1974, a total of 5 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Nixon had proven to be among the most beloved and most effective Republicans to ever serve, as Eisenhower's vice president and as JFK's opponent during his election. Nixon had more experience than nearly any other president in history. Nixon won election in 1972 in a historic landslide where he had every electoral college vote except for 3 states. However, Nixon made one big mistake, and it's known as the Watergate scandal. Nixon was a very impatient man, and even though he had won the election, he wanted to know exactly what was going on at his opponent's camp. So he used illegal wiretapping to find out enough information to know that he had won the election. Even though Nixon won re-election, he resigned from the office August 9, 1974. He is the only president to ever do so. His vice president, President Ford, took over, becoming the first president to ever serve as both vice president and president without being elected to either office by the Electoral College. Nixon was a member of the Republican Party. Our 38th president was Gerald Ford, who served from 1974 to 1977, a total of 3 years equivalent to 1 term. Ford was also a member of the Republican Party. Our 39th president was Jimmy Carter, who served from 1977 to 1981, a total of 4 years equivalent to 1 term. Carter was a member of the Democrat Party. Our 40th president was President Ronald Reagan, who served from 1981 to 1989, a total of 8 years equivalent to 2 terms. Reagan, who had started out as a Democrat, had become one of the most beloved and adored Republican presidents to ever serve. Ronald Reagan saw one of the greatest economies in U.S. history, was a strong leader, and a grandfather to the nation. Reagan was shot in an assassination attempt on March 36, 1981, but lived and recovered well. Reagan saw the end of the Cold War after some of the most intense tension between the U.S. and the USSR, and brought about a peace between the two nations. Reagan died of pneumonia complicated by his Alzheimer's disease on June 5, 2004. The nation mourned his death on June 11th. Ronald Reagan was officially a member of the Republican Party. Our 41st president was George H.W. Bush, who served from 1989 to 1993, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. George Bush served as Reagan's vice president and was also a Republican. Our 42nd president was Bill Clinton, who served from 1993 to 2001, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. President Clinton may be best known for the Lewinsky scandal, an extramarital affair he held with Monica Lewinsky, who was a 22-year-old White House intern. Though Clinton and Lewinsky both claimed the relationship was consensual at the time, in light of the 2018 Me Too movement, Lewinsky says that the power differential should classify as abuse. President Clinton has been accused of numerous sexual assault and misconduct cases, but has never been charged. He was also acquitted of his impeachment trial, which occurred when he backtracked and denied having sexual relationships with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. Bill Clinton was a member of the Democrat Party. Our 43rd president was George W. Bush, who served from 2001 to 2009, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. George W. Bush is the son of former President George H.W. Bush. Bush is the president responsible for declaring the War on Terror after 9/11. President George W. Bush is a Republican. Our 44th president is Barack Hussein Obama, who served from 2009 to 2017, a total of 8 years, equivalent to 2 terms. Obama is the first ever African American president. Barack Obama is one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history. Obama is well known for his articulate speech and down-to-earth persona. President Obama is part of the Democrat Party. Our 45th president was Donald J. Trump, who served from 2017 to 2021, a total of 4 years, equivalent to 1 term. Trump is one of the most polarizing presidents to date. His use of social media to connect with the people was previously unheard of. Trump's 4-year term was spent fighting allegation after allegation, ranging from sexual misconduct accusations to treason to inciting insurrection, none of which Trump was ever charged for. Trump is the only president to be impeached twice and acquitted twice. His economic achievements set records, with the stock market being higher than it's ever been. Donald Trump is currently rumored to be preparing for a second presidential run in 2024. Trump is a member of the Republican Party. Our 46th president is Joseph Biden. Joe Biden was inaugurated January 20th, 2021. Joe Biden served as vice president to Barack Obama and is the first president to have a female African-American vice president. Though often accused of racism for comments and actions taken against minorities, Biden will go down in U.S. history as having served with the first African-Americans to hold presidential offices. Joseph Biden is a member of the Democrat Party. And there you have it, all 46 U.S. presidents. Though this is just a brief rundown of the 46 presidents we've had so far in U.S. history, you can find more information about these presidents by following the link in the description down below. So that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned anything, remember to give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. And as always, this is History Abridged.